Imagine this. Every time you pass those snacks around the checkout in the grocery stores, you think to yourself, hey, I haven't had one of these in a while. I should treat myself. But then you remember the amount of resources that were used to put in those snacks. If you buy one, it means that you're consuming something that had costed the natural environment, of which could be avoided if it didn't exist. Yet at the same time you started to crave for some of the snacks. You're someone who cares about the environment. Should you feel guilty because you're consuming something that is quote-unquote non-essential? The answer to the question of should you feel guilty about consuming non-essentials is no, but it is always good to be aware of it. First, we need to identify what items are essential for consumption on a daily basis. There are 3 things that humans need to survive: food, water, and shelter. Everything beyond that can be considered as non-essential. At least theoretically, that is what essential is. Humans have found ways to live and continuously discovering new things that are beyond survival needs. For many of us in a fortunate situation, we don't have to struggle to survive, especially in developed countries where social programs and resources are available for the people in need. In a modern first world society, survival is not an issue, and people are constantly chasing a better quality of life because people want to live and enjoy their life rather than just surviving. A lot of things we consume on a daily basis in countries like Canada and the US are not essential. For example, things like snacks in the grocery stores, window shopping at the mall, that one random package from Amazon. For most of the time, these things are not essential to our daily life. We could probably live just fine without these things, knowing that these things are not essential, but we still do it. We still buy them. The reason for that is simple, because buying these items makes us happy. And I don't think that has anything to do with capitalism, brainwashing, conspiracy, or hypocrisy, whichever one people believes. Getting something a little extra out of a person's daily life will make them happy. Although these non-essential things are, well, non-essential, but it makes us happy. One can argue that non-essential things are important to our mental health, but in reality, these things are just not needed for our survival. Now let's put everything into the environmental perspective. Everything that is made out there consumes the natural environment one way or the other. Whether that is the materials that were used to make the product, the energy that is used to make the product, or the fuel that is burned to get the product shipped to wherever the person is getting the product. Knowing that a non-essential product creates some amount of ecological footprint. A quick definition. Ecological footprint is the measure of how much natural resources is used for each individual, such as a person, an item, or etc. etc. If we can avoid consuming non-essential items, we can reduce our ecological footprint because, well, we're not consuming. And theoretically, if a company can sell a certain product, they won't be producing the product, and hence reduce the need for all sorts of resources. This is the ideal for people who cares about the environment, but in reality, how many people are actually able to avoid these non-essentials? The amount of stuff in a person's life would need to be sacrificed. And this is not just limited to tangible items. For instance, a person should not be going to different places at their free time. That requires some form of transportations like cars, buses, or even trains, as driving is the #1 well-known source of carbon dioxide. And technically, buses and trains require resources to operate as well, and they also produce some form of pollutions. Therefore, unless it is absolutely essential, people shouldn't leave their house because it will create unnecessary consumption of the natural environment. As you may have already noticed how ridiculous it is from what I just said, you're absolutely right. Everything I said comes from the environmental protection perspective, but it is just not how people are and how people live, and how the society is structured. This is one of the things that environmental activists would wish to happen, but most likely will never happen. It is possible, but extremely low. Avoiding all non-essentials means keeping the quality of life at the bare minimum. most people would not be willing to do it. Of course, one may argue that, well, consumption of tangible, non-essential is easier to reduce. This is true, and I also encourage people to reduce buying non-essential items as much as possible. Many things that many people buy are just straight out unnecessary, especially some cheap things made from certain countries that are shipped to the Western world. However, I can't really judge others on what non-essential things to buy. From time to time, I also buy some things that are deemed non-essential by my own definition. When I deem others buying non-essential items, others would also deem me buying non-essential items. So who am I to judge others when I can't even do it? Many times when I'm buying non-essential items, I question myself. Should I feel guilty about it? Because I know that I'm consuming the natural environment in a way that I didn't need to. Then what can we do? Having awareness is a good thing. Knowing that everything you consume causes something from the natural environment. So for an average individual like you and I, we can just simply reduce the consumption of non-essential items as much as possible. This is a lot easier to do than the other problems and solutions that I have talked about in my previous videos. Also, once again, people should not feel guilty about themselves for buying non-essential items. It will only create more problems on yourself mentally in the long run. It is not healthy, it is not good for anyone. Guilt tripping others is also bad, so don't do that. A little side note, back in the COVID-19 era of 2020 and 2021, the amount of carbon dioxide emitted into the air drastically decreased because everyone is forced to stay at home. It was one of the only cases that we were able to see a significant decrease in carbon dioxide emissions in the modern days. And it proves one point from the side of the environment, which is that less consumption does decrease the human impact to the natural environment. What I'm trying to get here is that decreasing in consumption does work. The data has proved it one way or the other. Of course, this probably doesn't apply on all cases for all items. But anyways, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Peace.